All right. Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can see my beautiful face. Wow, it's good to respect people's time. And so I had given us 10 minutes to join, and now I'm glad you're here. Mwenye uko hapa ndiye tutasonga na yeye. So karibuni sana. My name is Betty Kidele. I am a counseling psychologist by profession. I am born again. I love Jesus as my Lord and Savior. I'm a married woman. I'm a married young woman, a mom of two, yeah, and a wife to one man, Cyrus Kitele. Yeah, and I'm really, really glad to see all of you. Karibuni sana. So I want us to just pray. Allow me to begin my meeting with prayer, and now we will get started. Let's pray. Father, we are grateful that, Lord, your healing power is in the room tonight. Thank you for allowing us to gather, and thank you for allowing us to be here. I pray that as we get to learn, would you be with us, guide us, and Lord, as we learn about childhood wounds and traumas, I pray that your healing will touch your people in the name of Jesus, because it is the essence of this meeting. We bless you and we honor you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So, today, I am joined by a longtime friend of mine, uh, Faith Titus. Okay, it's changed. It's Faith Thuo. The husband is here. He might throw stones on me. So, Faith Thuo is with us tonight. I will give Faith an opportunity to introduce herself, and then I will go straight to introducing the topic of the day. I know the timing changed, so maybe some people are still waiting for 8 p.m., but I believe they will see the sharing that we have done and join immediately. All right, so Faith, if you can come on video, introduce yourself, and then I'll introduce the subject matter of today.
So my name is Faith, Faith Thuo, Monyo, Titus. All those are my names, Betty. There's no point of concern with whichever surname you choose to use. Yeah, I am blessed to be with us tonight. Thank you for the invite, Betty, to have us for this session today. I am a psychologist by profession. I am a mom of two as well, and a wife to one, and I'm also a disciple of Jesus Christ. And I'm glad to be here today.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Faith. All right. So today we are talking about childhood wounds. Now, I know childhood trauma is a very loud thing in our community today. Um, you hear many people saying, usitulete trauma zako. By the way, I've heard people talk like that. Usitulete trauma zako. And thinking about it, it's a very serious thing. It's a very sad thing to hear someone say that, because many people lack understanding of what is actually childhood trauma. Is it my fault that I am the way I am? Is it my parents' fault? Faith, you will tell us. We want to hear. Is it our parents' fault that we are the way we are? Is it our fault that we are the way we are? Have we chosen to be wounded? Did we choose to be wounded? And I think that is a good place to start. But before then, Faith, what is childhood trauma? Because we hear it a lot. We want to clarify, what is childhood trauma? What is childhood wound? And however you might name it.
Okay. So I like that question you've asked, and it's got me thinking, is it my responsibility? Am I the reason as to why I'm the way I am, or I underwent that trauma? So childhood trauma, it's coming from a bigger term of trauma. Yeah. And trauma in itself is any experience that affects your ability or one's ability to cope. An experience that is extremely distressing. So when we talk about childhood traumas, now these are experiences that one goes through in their childhood or their formative stages of development that are extremely distressing, and they task their ability to cope. So you find that they have psychological, they have emotional, they have social impact on their lives, and it's long-term impact.
Long term.
Yes.
So is it my fault that I have a long term effect on me? Or
Mm.
is it my parents' fault? Whose fault is it that I am wounded as an
Uh-huh.
adult today?
Okay. So whose fault is it? By all means, it is not the child. By all means. Now, the assumption is we are back into our early stages of growing up. So you as a child, it is not your fault. That question is almost asking me what are the causes, or what finger do we need to point to, yeah, to show what is causing this thing. So by all means,
Mm,
the child is not a problem. Why? Because as a child, you ought to be taken care of.
yeah.
You are someone's responsibility, 100%. Either it's a parent, either it's a caregiver, whoever it is. So it's not a child's fault to experience childhood traumas. Is it parents? Could be sexual abuse, it could be verbal, it could be emotional. And this can happen in the hands of the people that were around you. I'm sure it's not just parents who were with us growing up. We had siblings, we had cousins, you had uncles and aunts, and all these people are a possible cause of one's childhood trauma. So if any of them could have abused this child, that could cause a trauma experience. Now, the other factor could be parental wounds. Yeah. So now we are talking specifically about a parent. And these wounds from parents emanate from having emotionally unavailable parents, number one, because there's assumption or the myth that I grew up with both parents. I don't think I have these childhood trauma things that people are talking about. But it's important to understand that physical presence does not necessarily mean safety. They might have been there full time, 100%. But when it comes to emotionally connecting with you, they were not present, or they were not attuned to your emotional needs. So you find there's a disconnect that came as a result. Now, there's a severe spectrum of certain parents who are likely to cause childhood trauma. And this includes parents such as those that tend to have narcissistic tendencies, for example. These are parents who would, they are so engrossed in their own sense of self-importance that you as a child, you don't matter as much. And so they will get into kind of a competition with you. Yeah. The traits that we all know about narcissists, there are parents who elicit those traits with their own children. Yeah. Other parents would be those that can be abusive. Would you imagine a parent ought to protect you and shield you, but now they are the ones who are verbally abusing you, for example, emotionally abusing you? So those are certain the kinds of parents who can cause childhood trauma. There are also others who their immaturity or emotional immaturity would come in the sense of being so enmeshed or wanting to be so engrossed with the child, such that
Yeah.
even as the child grows, they do not enhance their their need for independence, because
Independence, yes.
there's a point to which a child should be able now to make their own decisions. And this
Mm,
happens a lot, especially with parents that are trying to overcompensate. Yeah.
mm,
Maybe in their own growing up, they experienced some neglect. So they're like, I will be here 100% for my children.
overprotective, yeah.
So they become extremely overprotective. And now when you are growing up and now you want to make your own decisions, the parent becomes quite overprotective over you, and you start to feel, I'm suffocated.
Suffocated, yes. Mm.
Yeah. So that can cause trauma. There are also those now that tend to be extremely controlling. And us coming from an African background, the manner of punishment, ilikuwa, people would say that they were in a murder mission or something like that. Yeah. That
Mm-hmm.
the parent becomes extremely controlling. And the phrase that we hear that, a child is meant to be seen, not to be heard. And those are some of the traits that would lead children to be very fearful of their parents. That ukisikia amekuja, you just rush and you don't want to be in their presence. So it was that relationship was founded on fear and guilt, because if I do this, I'm certain that my dad will not approve of this and such kind of things. Also, it could be coming from a point of experiencing or witnessing domestic violence. And this is
Yeah.
one thing that is so rampant in our contexts. And now as a child, you witnessed that. And you also witnessed your parents' response to it. So say it's the dad beating up the mom, and you observed your mom tolerating that. So that can cause woundedness inside you when it comes to emotional regulation and ability to open up. Yeah. Other things could be adverse experiences such as chronic illnesses or addictions in the family, or when you're having to deal with even a death of a loved one. Maybe it's
Mm.
a father or a mom dying at an early stage in your life. That could also lead to childhood traumas. So there are quite a number of things that could lead one to develop these traumas.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, guys, everything that we are saying here, number one, we are not pointing fingers. We are
Mm,
just getting to ask ourselves, what happened to me? You know,
mm,
what happened to me? Some of these things we've discovered later, and maybe faith, because one of the things that happens with childhood trauma is the thing that affected you most.
mm,
When you're an adult, you can either go to any of the extremes, either on the extreme negatively, on the extreme positively. And maybe
mm,
like Faith is saying, you became your parents are overprotective, so you apply the same to your children, or you begin permissive parenting. Just do whatever you want. I mean, I didn't have freedom growing up, so uh, I mean, my children, you have the freedom. You grew up in poverty, so eat whatever
mm,
you want. Those kind of things. But now,
mm,
as we are talking as adults, Faith, what is the impact on our identity? What impact does childhood trauma cause on our identity? Because it is formation happens by okay, when the child gets to teenagehood, they begin to find their identity. So what happens if I was actually that child who went through trauma? What impact does actually that have on my self-worth, on my self-esteem, and on my identity generally?
mm. So we first have to agree that our initial years of development are very fundamental. Like it's the foundation on which we are set on.
Mm.
And it's clearly known that if a foundation is not stable, it is highly likely, regardless of how beautiful the construction is and how, magnificent, how tall, whatever, it's bound to break, to fall, to have some issues. So one thing that happens in childhood is that we are able to get the lens through which we see our world.
Mhm.
So our perception is formed, our core beliefs are formed. So the people that are around you in childhood, they are actually a representation of your world. They will get to imprint in you how you can expect your world out here. So for example, if now you are exposed to parents who are unavailable, you go report that, hey mom, I've met someone, he's beaten me or he's harassed me, and your mother is like, I told you to be careful. Like, that's your own problem. So because of that, you develop the feeling that I cannot trust my world.
Yeah.
My world is not safe. And so as a result, you are already starting your foundation with lots of weaknesses. Yeah, there are quite a number of lines of weaknesses in the foundation, especially when it comes to emotional foundation. So you realize by the time one is getting into adolescence, where identity is starting to form, the identity itself is already bruised, because childhood, remember, it comes with a number of negative beliefs. For example, if you had to win, love was given to you conditionally, that for you to be loved as a child, you have to have done this and this and this and this. So you
Yeah.
realize that you have to seek validation. Now, by the time you're getting to adolescence, you're already knowing that I can't just be loved for who I am.
Mm.
So by that time, now you are already it's starting to seep into your personal belief of your self-worth. And now it consequently affects how you relate with other people, because now you'll start to maybe people please, you don't want to be left out. So you
Mm.
will join whatever company. Yeah, because it's already so shaky. You're not sure of who you are, because every time maybe you try to speak your mind, you're silenced. You're told, hey, where no, you're not allowed to speak and such kind of things. So there's a lot of self-doubt. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. And talking about self-doubt, how do we deal with now the negative self-talk and the self-doubt? Because many of us, the reason why we sabotage ourselves every single day in our relationships at work, or it's because of that. Maybe I never had an opportunity to express myself, so I feel like anyway, whatever point I had to say, it's not necessary, it's not relevant. Who said that? So how do we deal with the negative self-talk and the sabotage that we actually put on ourselves?
Mm. It is important to understand where it came from first.
Yeah.
The awareness is very critical, because you realize that at an adolescent stage, you might not even be aware that you're struggling with negative self-talk. You just think it's the norm because that's all you've seen. That's the environment in which you've been exposed. Hearing words such as you will not amount to anything, you don't deserve the best, and such kind of things. So there's something we call programming of the brain.
Mm.
The brain records the most repeated information as the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a child, the most common and frequent informations that you received, either it was verbally or by virtue of observing, modeling, and all that, your minds record that as this is the truth. So because of that, you have that sense of, yeah, but I can't amount to anything. So it's not a thing that you're feeling like I need to challenge. It is your reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. So until you come to a level of awareness and understanding that it starts from the roots. I was programmed in the wrong foundation. The belief that I am careless, I am ugly, I will not be, no one will ever love me, and such kind of things. We have to understand that that is a false belief. That is not true. Yeah. And now
Mm.
be willing to challenge that. But remember, these programmings come as a result of repetition, because you've repeatedly received that information. So in the same breath, you have to repeatedly tell yourself otherwise. So if you are
Yeah.
constantly told that you're useless and all these things, your mind believed it. So it's extremely difficult to convince yourself. And that's why you find that people struggle to, even when they are doing extremely exemplary well, and they are given awards and all these accolades, but internally that question on self-doubt, you realize that despite all these achievements, I'm still doubting myself. So what's the issue? The issue is because that information has been so deeply aged in your brain that it's not your default. So it takes a lot of repeatedly telling yourself that I am different, I am not this. All this information that I received or I saw growing up is not the truth. So there have to be a lot of emotional work to it to be able to challenge such beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely. I read a certain it was just a small writer from, I can't remember her name, but she's a those we call celebs in our around the streets of Nairobi, and she was talking about how much, the way she is usually applauded, and deep inside of her she's thinking, in ya nini, by the way, what have I done? So it's very, very important. The way you've been programmed, you have to program yourself otherwise.
Mm,
And we're in the era of some of us here are parents. It is the same thing. If you don't like what you see in yourself, because someone was actually in the questions was asking, how do I ensure that I don't transfer trauma on my children? You know, so it is simply, if you are programmed in a certain negative way, then you have to program yourself otherwise, and now transfer that new version of you to your children. All right.
mm,
And we are talking about negative self-talk. We are talking about trust issues. And I have people in relationships here, whether in dating relationships or in marriage. And we keep saying, this one has trust issues. Able tell us about that in regards to childhood traumas. And maybe you
mhm.
can touch on attachment styles. I know it's big on childhood trauma. Maybe you can touch on that as well.
Okay. They're actually closely related. So
Yeah.
I will start. There's something you mentioned about, yeah, when we are going through this experience and you're thinking, with time I will get over it.
Hmm.
Or, but I was a child, like, what's the big deal? Hata sikumbuki hizo memories. Yeah, it's actually a myth that you will outgrow
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
childhood experience, especially childhood traumas. You cannot outgrow childhood traumas. It will be shocking, but the reality is I deal with even 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds who are still struggling because of what they went through in childhood. So it's
Mhm.
not something we can easily just
Outgrow.
suppress. Your body keeps count. So it is important, as you had mentioned, parents who are thinking, what can I do to not transfer? You have to do the work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of traumas is intergenerational traumas. Trauma
Mm,
passed from one generation to another. How does that happen? There's no one who stood in the gap and said it has to end with me, and they were
mm,
willing to put in the work.
yeah.
Yeah. So we really have to, and it's by no means to accuse our caregivers or the experiences that we had, but acknowledging them is important, because you're saying that I want to be in charge of my life, and I
Mm,
do not want my past to dictate how I deal with situation and stuff. Okay.
yeah.
So let me get to that question you've asked about trust issues and attachments. Now, if one went through childhood traumas, it's highly likely that they will struggle with trust issues. How does
Mm,
that come about? Remember, we said your initial stages of development shape your view of your world. Keep that at the back of your mind. Now, every time you interacted with that primary caregiver of yours, and they made you feel less important, they made you feel like, you don't deserve this. Your feelings don't matter. You need to conceal your emotions. In any case, you need to consider me as the parent.
mm,
One of the other types of parents is parents who need parenting. I don't know whether
mm,
we've had or come across such, but there's a concept known as parentification, where a parent expects you to take care
parent.
of their emotions. And honestly, especially for us who are here, please, I would just urge and plead you by the mercies of God, do not expect that your child will understand you emotionally. It is
Mm.
your responsibility to understand the child, not the other way around. So with these parents, the roles are reversed. That the child has to, I can't say what I feel because I'm afraid dad will be hurt or mom
Mm.
will be offended.
Mhm.
Yeah. So who is the parent? Okay. So I deviated. So if you are meant to feel like you're less important and your feelings don't matter, then highly likely you learned to retrieve, you learned to conceal how you feel, you learned to imagine that I cannot be vulnerable, because vulnerability means criticism, it means comparison, it means being abused or being gaslit or being meant to, feel guilty and all these things. So as a result, this child from a very tender age, they learned that it's not safe for me to share. Yeah. And because of that, they develop now, coming to the attachments, what we call an avoidant attachment, whereby they learn to build walls around them, because for them, people around them means not safe. I can't trust you. So imagine someone not being able to trust their primary caregivers. So what makes you think they will trust you as an adult in that relationship, you whom you've just met with all your 32 teeth grown? Yeah. Very rarely that they will come and be like, oh, I trust you, my partner. I know you have good intentions of me at heart. Not really, because where they are coming from, where they're coming from is from a point of, I can't trust my environment. I can't trust the people that ought to be the first people to take care of me. So how is it that I'm going to trust a relationship? And so they come into that relationship with a lot of fears, a lot of suspicion, tendencies. They are hypervigilant. They are constantly looking for danger, because remember, internally, their system is wired to believe danger is around. Yeah. So that's how that avoidant attachment comes in. Now, there's another one known as the anxious attachment, which is as a result of a deep longing for connection. Yeah. Where this child felt like, I want my parents to see me, but they're so busy. Children, they're very innocent. I'm a mother of two, and they keep coming, and they are showing you their shoes and their dress, and they want to just to get that validation that, yeah, you look smart, my girl, and that kind of a thing. And so as a child, if you grew up with that desire for connection but it was not there, the ones that you were expecting to offer that were either not able to do so, or they were incapable. So because of that, you grow up with internal fear and anxiety. You have a deep longing for connection. So as a result, now you end up being a person who is afraid of being left, is afraid of being rejected. So now it brings in other behavioral tendencies such as people pleasing, because you want to fit in, you want to feel like, wow, this partner really loves me. So you will constantly keep seeking for validation, or not speaking your mind because you are afraid you will offend them. Yeah. So that's now the extreme spectrum, which is an anxious attached person. And now we have one that is disorganized, which has both avoidant tendencies and anxious tendencies, where they want love, but at the same time they're afraid if they open up, if they are vulnerable, they will be hurt and they will be offended. So they give those mixed signals, and these are the kind of people who will keep living relationships at the smallest conflict. I'm gone. I've left. Yeah. But 2 days down the line, they are back. Can we try to do something? Yeah. So that's a disorganized attached person. And all these are pointing to woundedness in the past. So we really have to be truthful to ourselves and explore at what stage did I, develop this kind of attachment.
Wow. And Faith, talking about relationship, there are people who say, why do I keep finding the wrong partner? You know,
Mm,
the
mm,
dating fear. Why do I keep dating the wrong men? Or why do I keep finding women who just want to eat my money and go? What do you want
Mm.
to speak to that? Mm,
That's a good question, and it happens a lot. If you had a wounded past, be sure it is difficult to attract a secure, a healthy person. It's extremely difficult. One, there's something we call reenactment. Reenactment is repeating what you saw.
yeah.
Modeling is one of the greatest way of learning by far. What we see, not what we hear, not what we are told, all this, what you see. So it's highly likely if you came from an environment that, for example, your dad was unavailable, that's what you saw. Or issues were swept under the rugs. We don't deal with conflicts here. We keep quiet, you learn to survive. So that's the imprint that you saw. This is how things are done. So it is highly likely that even when you didn't like it, even when you detested the way your dad would speak to your mom and all that, once you are at that point of making a decision, you will be attracted or you'll be drawn to similar patterns. Yeah. So that happens. And because at the back of your mind, you have the notion that you're used to chaos,
Mm.
you're used to dysfunction. So anything that is not dysfunctional, I don't know whether you've had people who say that, hey, Mimi, people who don't cause chaos, they're very boring in relationship. I can't stay with
Kama
someone
hatupigani.
mwenye hatupigani, hatuna conflict, hapana. It's and they will tell you that I will say two days and I'm out, and or rather I will not feel very comfortable. But where there is chaos, they thrive a lot in that. Why? It's because that is the image that you have, and that is your truth as far as relationships are concerned. So you're likely to propagate that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, mercy, Lord.
Mm.
The impact is real, and I think as we talk, maybe look through yourself because this is more of a it's a learning experience, but it's also a time for healing. We are just doing surgery here. As we
Mm.
open up the wounds, are you seeing yourself? Are you asking yourself, why do I keep meeting the wrong people? Why do I keep quitting on relationships? What is wrong?
Mm.
What is happening?
Mm.
Not to feel bad for you, but to just understand, why do I behave the way I behave, and because we're talking about now childhood trauma on relationships, let's talk about boundaries. The impact of trauma and boundaries. Why can't I keep boundaries? Why do I keep people keep stepping on me and I can't do anything? I'm helpless. I can't say no. I don't know how to say no. In the office, mtu akitaka any extra work, say unaweza nisaidia hapa, sawa tu, you don't even think about the
Iko.
workload that you have yourself. So let's talk
Mm.
about boundaries, and mostly let's talk about boundaries at the workplace and now relationship wise. How do I handle that in relationship and at work?
Okay. It still stems from the beliefs that you have held in the course of living, and that is closely tied to what you are told about boundaries. We have people who have different beliefs when it comes to saying no. Do you feel like saying no is being selfish? Have you been meant to feel like saying no, you're being aggressive, or setting your boundary, you're not being considerate? And maybe some of us here are Christians and you're told, you have to accommodate people. So if there was a tendency to want to make you feel like for you to be a good friend, you have to go over and beyond. You have to be available to help, even when it is an inconvenience to you. And so you developed a belief system within you that boundary setting is unacceptable because it's rude, it's been aggressive, it's been all this. So now it becomes difficult to challenge that, or rather to act differently, because it is edged in your mind that I cannot say no to my boss. Yeah. What's your belief about people in authority? you know, when sometimes you're doing therapy and you're asking someone, so you just stand up for yourself. Maybe they're talking about their parents or someone who is really elder to them, and they're like, no, I cannot. Yeah. Or they believe that that elder person is always right. They know what they are doing. And so you ought not to question it. So those are some of the beliefs that we really need to be able to challenge, because if they are not challenged, then you will find it extremely difficult to set boundaries. It might feel like someone would say, ah, see, you just say no, but you see, you want to understand, where is this inability to say no coming from? Yeah. Because if you're not able to challenge the root cause, then it becomes difficult to be consistent with the behavior change that you're trying to achieve. So
Mm,
boundaries, when it comes to work, again, it can be either porous boundaries where you're very passive, you allow anyone to do anything to you and
mm,
not question it, because maybe you want peace, or
yeah.
you don't want to be seen as a bad person. You are conflict averse. I don't like conflict, so let me just take it. Yeah. All those are
Mm,
negative beliefs about things, because it is not right to believe that conflicts are are negative, and so you avoid them entirely.
mm,
Then what that
mm,
means is that you will have to bear the cost every time.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
and
my
now to
God.
the other
So
extreme, there are those who will have very high standards and rigid boundaries. They cannot change. They are so stiff.
yeah.
It's either black or white. Yeah.
Yeah. We've said we have two extremes, huh? We have
Mm,
extremes of the rigidity that she's talking about. You become so rigid that you're not flexible at all, right? Or you are extremely flexible. So you have to
mm,
find the balance in between. You have to find the balance. And like Faith is saying, um, I don't use this statement, but it has just crossed my mind. This lady said, "Nice girls don't get what was which book is that? Nice girls don't get what? I
Corner
can't
office.
remember.
the corner
Sorry.
office.
They
Oh
don't get the
yes.
corner
Yes.
office.
Don't just be a nice girl, oh, because what happens is with that niceness, actually people take advantage of you, and
Mm,
you'll be thinking, oh, Betty is so nice in the office. Anything you want, you can. But there is that point of being nice, but there also that point of seeing, hey, guys, you're taking advantage of me, and I need to stand up for myself. So if I have so much workload, and Faith comes and tells me, hey, sunifanyie tu hii kitu, do you have the ability to say no? If you don't, then it's time to recheck your boundaries. Now, I love the question Terry is asking. Terry is asking, is it the responsibility of others to understand me in our relationship for the relationship to work? Or what role do I play in relationships? Acha nisikujibu kwanza. Say, is it do I have to make people understand me all the time?
hivi ndo nakuanga, this is who I am, take me or
Mm-hmm.
leave me, but yeah. Yeah, it's quite immature to expect other people to take responsibility of lack of your growing up and lack of your
Mm-hmm.
need to grow up and to develop personally. Yeah, those traits of or tendencies of saying that, mimi hivi ndo nakuanga, you need to understand me. It's really immature. Let me just call it so, because there's no way you're going to interrupt work relationship, for example. Like, things can't work a certain way because we do not want to offend so and so. This is how she is. Yeah. Yet it's something that is showing a lack on their end, or a need that they need to be able to work through. So yes, other people don't need to take responsibility for your lack of growth. Please
Yeah.
just call yourself kamukutano and look inward, and see what is the role that I have
Mm.
played in all this, every time there's a mess, I have to be there. My name has to come through. So what is it about me that causes me to be quite a key factor when it comes to issues or relationship problems?
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. And I like what Faith Nzomo is saying. It is unfair for people to tiptoe around you because they're like, oh, you at a catch anytime. So one, it is
Mm.
hard to be corrected, and it becomes harder if you get married to to someone
Mm.
who also utaki corrections hata wewe ka. That marriage will not work. And by the way, say, talking about marriage and tendencies the trauma, what are some of the repetitive patterns that honestly, if I don't deal with this thing will keep repeating itself in my marriage?
Mm.
And by the way, disclaimer, it is not just marriage. It is just because in marriage is more complicated because now you have someone in your life who you're interacting with every day, you're dealing with, you have to talk to. So, what are some of those negative tendencies that tend to repeat themselves in a marriage relationship?
Mm. One of the key things is insecurities.
Hmm.
Insecurities stemming from abandonment issues.
Yeah.
And in intense fear, you're constantly on the lookout for, wow, I'm afraid you leave me, I'm afraid you will get someone else out there to love you. And so these are the people that will constantly keep checking your phone, constantly
Mm.
wanting to know who are you talking to. If you're going for a meeting, please send the pin, so that, or rather your live location, so that I follow you through until I ensure you've not gone to Syokimau instead of, at River. So those abandonment issues, insecurities will be very magnified in relationships if you have not dealt with your childhood traumas. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Another thing that is likely to show, which it seems like a good thing, but it's known as hyper independence.
Mm.
Yeah. The feeling that I am I can do this by myself. I don't
Mm.
need help. Tumefikiwa. Right. Hyper independence, by the way, is a sign of something. There's some dysfunction that needs to be dealt with, because you need to be open to help, and it is okay to ask for help. But if you find yourself constantly having to prove that you're a strong person,
Mm.
that you can't be broken, you don't need to be
Mm.
fixed, you're Miss Independent, there's a problem. Yeah. Then again, there's now we have
Yeah.
tissues. Yeah. Then we also have people now who get to codependency with their
Mm.
partner.
Yeah.
Codependency is whereby your concerns about the other person's feelings, their thoughts, their experiences is so overwhelming to you, such that it starts to affect you. It starts to affect your functioning. Have you seen these people who their partner is in a problem, and it kind of gets into them, like it's really, they get so messed up into the whole problem, and not just partners alone or even friends. They are codependent with the people that are around them. So they are the people who will try to advise you and expect you to do what they want you to do. Yeah. Or they feel like you're not changing, you're not going to the direction that I want. So they get so wounded by their partners not behaving in a certain way. But at the same time, they cannot get themselves out of the environment. If it's a relationship, they cannot end it. Yet they are hurt by what their partner is doing. Yeah. So those are some of the unhealthy tendencies that are likely to show up in relationships.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I really love that. We've not talked about withdrawing during conflict. Well, I used to be a victim at some point of my life
Uh-huh.
until I grew up. We've not talked
Mm,
about silent treatment,
mm.
emotional regulation. How do I regulate myself when to go in that space? So it is the impact is wide and the impact is huge, you know.
Mm,
But like you're saying, traumas, childhood trauma is not a chronic illness. I know there are long term effects, but you don't have to die like that. Honestly, you
mm,
don't have
mm,
to die like that. So how do we go about self-awareness of this thing? Okay, before then, there's a question I've seen here. Can it be the reason behind withdrawing from a place you feel not okay, even if that person assures you that they are really sorry? I think we've talked about that. Withdrawing, just withdrawing. Though I hope I get the context of that question, right? Uh, Then there is I like the part that Faith you say it's our responsibility to put standards and stop being nice. My question is maybe you allowed yourself to let some things pass by tendency of being a good person in a relationship setup. How do you unchange this nicely without hurting the other person? How do you gain your power back?
mm.
Mm.
You, okay. How to navigate that? You've realized, I have been letting this person get away with so many things. One, approach them and tell them that you have learned that in the course of time, you have been laid back about pointing out issues. And now start to assert yourself, start to tell them that no, this thing I'm not going to allow it to go this way, or I will not allow such a treatment. So start to communicate your needs, your wants. Now don't be aggressive about it, because there's a risk of now realizing, guy, all this long someone has been taking advantage of me. No, unamshika mashati and you almost want to pass out to you know, land on them. So it's important that you're able to be assertive. If you're struggling to, find the middle ground between being passive and being aggressive, which is assertiveness. Assertiveness is whereby you're able to communicate your needs and your wants very firmly, but very calmly. So that calls for regulating your feelings first. Assume something has happened and you're feeling so agitated, so irritable, and you almost want to call them and let's talk about this. Just call yourself and tell yourself, calm down, manage your emotions. So what we say is that validate how you feel, but then regulate yourself, regulate your emotions. Validating emotions doesn't mean, yes, I am hurt and I have evidence that you did this and this and this and this to me, and so I have a right to treat you whichever way that I feel like, because I feel hurt. No, given your heart, well and good. We are sorry for that. But please, would you take time to regulate your feelings and then come to the person once you're calm, once your emotions are settled? Because by all means, you are not going to be objective if you're driven by emotions. So you have to ensure that regulating is your role. Now, there are people who expect that the other person, because they are the ones who hurt them, they are responsible for regulating their feelings.
Mhm.
Excuse me, please, no. Yeah, it's our responsibility. They are our feelings. So
Mm.
learn to self-soothe, learn to regulate yourself. What is it that is likely to get me out of this negative feeling that I have for my partner? Then do that. Once you've done that, now come to them and let them know how their behavior made you feel and what you
Mm.
would expect moving forward. Yeah.
Mm.
Now
Absolutely.
there's the risk of hao watu wa kunyamazia vitu, when there are people who sleep over things, and that really helps to regulate them, me being one of them. Tukilala tu, as long as we just sleep over that thing, tomorrow I'll wake up feeling better. Now the risk of that is you will not get back to what made you feel the way you felt.
Yeah.
And that is what eventually builds, leads to passive aggression, because
Mm,
you've not dealt with the issue. You start to build things up pole pole, and before you know
mm,
it, now you cannot hold it anymore. So the difference between silent treatment and timeout is, I come to you, you've offended me, you're my partner, I tell you, by the way, George, yeah, and George is my partner. Anyway, so you tell your partner, you have hurt me, you have offended me, but then at this moment I don't feel like I can talk about it. So
mm,
can we catch up about this issue tomorrow in the evening or next week on Monday? Please set a time. If you struggle with coming back, set a time, if possible a specific time, 7:30 p.m.,
yeah.
and the location, so that that keeps you accountable, that there's something that we need to address even after your emotions have settled. Yeah, so that you avoid the tendency whereby you feel like, see, nimeamka nasikia tuko sawa, and then the partner, if they are avoidant, by the way, they will not remind you there's something you need to talk about. In any
Yes.
case, they will just be like, but babes, nilisema sorry, like pole sawa, let's create the good moments, yet you're hurting, or something they did made you really feel frustrated. So it's
Mm,
important, set time to come back, and please come back to it.
mm, absolutely. I think, Faith, that your question is answered. What's wrong with us who just withdraw and can't face a conflict head on? There's nothing wrong with you. You just need to cultivate growth around that area. And you know, when you're talking about sweeping things under the carpet, the resentment that grows, it's crazy.
Mm,
It is beyond repair. All
mm,
right. So I think I believe we are learning. Now we are coming to a close. And for those who just joined, we started at 7:30. Okay, 7:40. So we are towards the close, and we are asking now, how does self-awareness and self-compassion, what role does it play in this? Because most of us, I think childhood trauma has been talked about over and over and over again, and I believe most of us already we are seeing ourselves. Mm-hmm. Tushajiona in many forums, not just here at this forum. We've already seen ourselves. We've seen the toxic traits in ourselves. Did you know
mm.
that you have a toxic trait? Just look into you. You realize you have a toxic trait. And if you've seen that toxic trait, what are you doing about it? Because that's self awareness. You are aware, so what? All right. Next month, I'll be talking about toxic parents. It will be a very interesting conversation because we are here. Some of us are toxic parents. How will we know? Anyway, so what is the role of faith? What is the role of self compassion and self awareness as we get to heal from trauma? Because we said it's not a chronic disease. You don't have to die with it. You can handle it. You can attain secure attachment. You know. So how do we get to that space? What's the process now of healing as we wrap this up?
Right. Awareness is critical, and it's always the first step. The truth is, you can't change what you're not aware of. If I don't know,
Mm,
and it's something that happens. There's this quadrant that we talk about, of things that you don't know about yourself, things that other
inheritance.
people know but you don't know. Yeah.
Mm,
And so it's important that you are aware, you get an awareness, because information imposes responsibility.
mm,
You see, it's difficult once you know, to assume that, yeah, people should understand me, but you know very well this is now my toxic trait. So once you
mm,
are aware that there will be a responsibility that will be automatically imposed, now it's upon us to reflect: do I need to do the work? Do I need to face the tough questions within myself, and to go through the hard work of trying to heal whatever past that could have led to these symptoms that I'm manifesting. Yeah. So awareness is the first thing. It will help us to understand that there's some work that needs to be done, and at least you're able to catch yourself. Yeah, catch yourself as you're trying to withdraw, catch yourself as you're trying to to push other people's boundaries because you want to get something. Catch yourself as you're trying to be extremely suspicious and looking out for mistakes even when they're not there with your partner. So it really helps you to be able to be in that space where you can, yeah, I think this is my natural tendency starting to show up, and I need to regulate myself.
Absolutely. Self-compassion, its role in the healing process. Some of us,
Mm,
yeah, some of us really beat ourselves hard. Like, so let's talk about the role. What is the role of self-compassion as now we get to towards healing?
mm. Self compassion is a key ingredient to healing. Change cannot come from a point of criticism, from a point of, that tough and extreme high standards for self. It is difficult to change yourself if you have to talk to you in a very critical way and beating yourself hard, because it is only through compassion that you can give yourself another chance to be like, okay, I understand this is emanating from this, and I'm giving myself the grace to grow and to learn. Because what happens is, if for example you've realized now out from this forum, you've realized, oh, kumbe my tendencies are as a result of this, and now you're not self-compassionate. But remember, these are traits that have existed all your life. You cannot expect them to change overnight. You cannot expect them to change in a month's time, that now I'm no longer avoidant. Yeah. So it will be really unfair for you to expect you to have a quick random, 180-degree change and expecting that to be consistent. You have to allow yourself to have moments of, relapse, moments where you will get back to your old self. For as long as you
Mm,
don't wallow there and, try to remain in that state, dust yourself, lift yourself up, and say that I'm in the process of growth, and growth takes
mm.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I love that. Imagine if you experience trauma as early as 4 years, 5 years, you know, and now you're 30 years old. Imagine all those
Mm,
years. Yes, those are so many. Assuming that you began experiencing trauma at maybe the age of 5, and now you're
mhm,
30. Put your age there. So those are 25 years of impact. So you can't assume I will wake up tomorrow feeling okay. So it
mm,
is a matter of, growth, taking yourself, yeah, Smith is saying, giving yourself grace every day. That's the way you would
right.
extend grace to other people. I think some of us are so harsh on ourselves, but very kind out there on other people. So it is very
Mm,
important that you give yourself grace, and maybe if you feel like this is a lot for me as a person, Faith, you can tell us about the place of therapy, in
mm.
the healing process as I read these questions. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that we tend to do a lot of self work, and self help. Initially, of course, no one wants to. I've just realized, and quickly I'm here trying to get a therapist. There are those who will try to do that, but there are those who will want to first read books, attend these seminars and such kind of forums, webinars, and such things. But when you realize, despite all this work that I'm trying to do on myself, I'm not seeing results, or it is difficult to sustain certain results that I really want, then at that point you can consider therapy. Yeah. Because it's in therapy that at least you will find someone who will not judge you by all
Yeah.
means. Yeah. And you'll be able to, professionally, they'll take you through healing, understanding where you're coming from, and connecting the dots. How is it that you're behaving this at this particular point in your life? And how is
Mm-hmm.
it related to where you're coming from? And how can you move past this stage that you're in? So therapy is extremely very important, especially if you've gone through these issues. We've said that you cannot outgrow them. So you have to deal with them. Otherwise, you'll pass them on to your children and to your children's children. So make the decision to say that it has to end with me and put
Mm,
in the work. It's an investment mentally, physically, financially, emotionally. So, yeah.
mm, yeah. Wow. By the way, there's a Netflix movie. I don't know if you watched Till It Must End With Us. Am I? I have watched it.
Mhm.
Go and watch it. You'll understand what you are saying. It must end with us. All right.
Mm.
Now, Nathaniel, the question you asked, we had talked about, but Nathaniel is simply asking about passing down the trauma, the traits to our children, and he's saying, uh, if you get to see your personality in your little one, that eventually they got into wearing it from observing you, even without you personally knowing it. So, how do you change that? Right? How do you change? Remember, children learn from observation. You might not tell them anything, but they will
Mm.
observe you. And we had talked about that, Nathaniel, and we said, if you see, for example, your child has anger outbursts, and clearly you can see, we see ourselves in our children. Unfortunately, Joanna, by the way, if you see your child has anger issues, then and you become aware. Remember, we are talking about self awareness. Faith has just talked about self awareness. If you are self aware, you will see it. If you're not, then it's a pass through, all right? But if you're able to see it, then don't be afraid of talking to them about it, saying maybe they're talking apple, blah, blah, blah. No, no, no. Just communicate, help them regulate, even as you seek help yourself. Now that you're self aware about it, even as you seek help about it so that you don't pass it. Faith talked about generations. Imagine your parents passed the trauma to you. You're passing it to your children. Remember, some of us tend to parent how we were parented unless we get to know otherwise, especially
Mm.
now that there is knowledge out here. So if you don't get the knowledge, you can imagine your grandchildren will parent their children how you parented them. Not because you parented them, but because you parented a child who parented them. You know, so it is a powerful trauma. Trauma is a big thing. Faith is asking, how come one trigger can bring up something that happened so long ago and it really takes up a toll on you, even when you are an adult? Mm-hmm.
If
Faith.
you've not dealt with it, it will come. I say that body keeps count. So if it's something that your mind suppressed as a way of coping, some of us we've had to survive through things, and so your mind had to look for the best way to help you navigate that. One of them being suppressing or denying that it happened, and all those other coping mechanisms. So, but then anytime there's a trigger or something that is similar, related, or an experience that would point out to that other experience that you had suppressed, it is highly likely that you remember it. Yeah.
Mm,
So it shows that there's some work that you, or there are issues that you've not dealt with and you need to deal with. Someone was saying how you can attend a burial, for example, and you find yourself crying so deeply, like you're not a close relative, but the way in which you're reacting or responding, someone would be shocked whether you're a loved one, and that could point to maybe a loss and grief that you've not processed in your own
mm,
life that you need to, deal with.
mm. Wow, absolutely. They say anything that triggers you, it means there is something you've not dealt with. Yeah?
Mm.
Yeah, there's some unprocessed trauma. You got it right, Faith. Wow, amazing. Watu wa Mungu. So we are coming to a close. I know this can't really end, but we have to bring it to an end. I think I've incorporated the questions that I had received earlier. So Faith Titles as a book. Okay, is it a book or an ebook? Faith, please tell us about your boundaries, whatever. Yeah, please share that so that people can know where to get you. and also probably share your contact. Yeah.
Mm, okay. Yes, I have an ebook dealing with boundaries. So it's you can find it on my website, which is Therapy Effect Consulting. So www.therapyeffectconsulting.co.ke. You will get to the point where there are resources, and in that resources you find 3 books. There's one on boundaries, which is an ebook. There's another one on, a guide on healing childhood trauma. So it's basically what we've actually covered. And also now I have another one coming up, though it meant to be a physical book. I'm in the process of producing it. So it's on children. It's a children's journal, because children, majority of us, we are talking about childhood traumas because we didn't know about them while we were growing up. So I thought, why not help children understand some of these things earlier on in life and learn how to navigate them before they get to the levels like some of us who have to get to crisis so that we can seek intervention. Yeah. So those are the resources that you will find. You can also get me on my number, which is 0742 162 142. I will post it on the chat box. And yeah, we can explore further about your childhood traumas or anything that you would want to process. Yeah. Thank you, Betty.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So please, I was trying to get your details, Faith. You can post them on the group before we exit. Uh, we have, oh, someone has a question. Okay, I don't know. Elsie, your hand is up. Amma, it's a mistake. All right, all right. Sawa, sawa. Great. Now, as we bring this to an end, as Faith shares her details, please, as we close, I want to just do a brief summary. Number one, be self aware. Just know. Someone said, know what eats you up. Okay? Just know what eats you up. If you're easily angered, if you don't keep relationships, if you keep the aspects that we've talked about, if there's kikulacho kingoni mwako, that statement. So if it's very important for you to be aware of what eats you up. Once you are aware, then it is easy to deal with. And once you manage to get it, please be very gracious to yourself. Deal with yourself a bit at a time. Imagine the way you would treat other people out there. A very kind person, be that kind person to yourself, because it will really, really help. It will work for you. For the parents who are here, uh, we have an opportunity to create a different generation of our children. We have an opportunity to impact different parenting. One day we'll talk about parenting styles because they are big also on childhood traumas. How you parent your child. So let's look out for those webinars. Faith facilitates monthly webinars as well. Uh, Myself, I also do facilitate monthly webinars on counseling. Like I said, next month we are talking about toxic parents. So if you know you're a parent and a future parent, so look out for the poster for next month. Let's see what are some of the traits that we exhibit that will actually impact on our children. Let's bring up healthy children, and I believe it will be we will look back and say we are happy that we dealt with our issues. Like again, you also said you're not blaming anyone on this. Let's take responsibility, whether it was because of your mother or your father. Now it is about you. Ni kama vile nani alisema, Ezekiel alisema, once you're age 30, you are the poor background. We are no longer referring to our parents. So don't be there blaming your parents. It's time for you to wake up and deal with what needs to be dealt with. Silvia is asking if the session has been recorded. Unfortunately, we are working towards recording our sessions, getting the paid Zoom. So we are getting there one bit at a time. So thank you so much for joining. The Lord bless you. See you next month.
But I think on my end, I will confirm with my technical team. You know, I have a very strong technical team that is able to record even apps that are not recordable. So I will
Yes.
confirm with you about that. Then we can share the
Ah,
recording. With you.
it
Yeah.
really helps. I hope it was. All right. Thank you so much. So if once it is confirmed, we will share. We will share. I hope it will get to you somehow. Sawa sawa. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you so much, Faith. The Lord bless you. Let me also drop my number in case of anything. That's my number. You can as well reach out to me for any counseling services or any help that you would need in that regard. So the Lord bless you and have yourselves a good night.
Thank you. Have a good night, people. Bye.
Bye.